Canadians are not going to give up their civil liberties at the drop of a hat, at Harper's whim. But now the Conservatives in Ottawa are shouting Yahoo because they've got the pretext, the platform to stand on to make CSIS much more formidable of an undercover organization than it was. Meggison, I was president and one of the founders of the Edmonton Coalition Against War and Racism, where we started under this name in December of 2002, long time ago, and we have carried on this struggle for peace and justice and anti-war, anti-imperialist war since that time under this name. So with the, I'd like to say that first of all, that we do have lots of allies, some of whom are still writing in the media, like the Edmonton Journal. I guess Senator Doug Roche is one of those. I was reading an article today by Stephen Maher, who has written a lot about the Harper's robocalls scandals. He points out that a lot of the legislation that they want has been partly developed, but now the Conservatives in Ottawa are shouting Yahoo because they've got the pretext, the platform to stand on to make CSIS much more formidable of an undercover organization than it was. What Comrade Peggy Morton was talking about at the beginning of her talk. At any rate, Stephen Harper has prepared the ground, and on an aside, I dare say that John Baird and Stephen Harper, through their belligerent war rhetoric, their Islamophobia, have bear some responsibility for what happened in Ottawa. There's crazy people that are going to respond to crazy things. CSIS is, in one sense, a weak organization in terms of parliamentary oversight. Unlike the United States or Britain, the Canadian Security and Intelligence Service does not have an all-party oversight body. It's a body. The oversight body is appointed by the Government of Canada. Read Stephen Harper and his drive to criminalize dissent. At the present time, the board, the oversight committee of appointees is supposed to be 6 people, but there's only 3 people on the committee at the present time. They've lost successive chairpersons. Chuck Strahl, who used to be a Reform member of Parliament, then became a Conservative member of Parliament, was the former chair, but he had to step down. I don't know if you recall why, but he was the head of CSIS, who is spying on environmental groups regarding opposition to pipelines, and Chuck Strahl at the same time, in receiving these reports, was working for one of the big pipeline companies. So the big pipeline companies got a direct link to who's protesting. Like, that was too embarrassing, so they kicked him out. Then, before Chuck Strahl, we had Arthur Porter. He's the lying son of a bitch that's in jail in Panama right now for stealing from the Montreal hospital complex, and he's completely tied up in the Lavaland scandal. So that's 2. And who did Harper appoint to be the acting chair of CSIS, the CSIS Oversight Committee? That's only got 3 people on the committee to do the work of 6 and more. He appointed former Reform Member of Parliament, Deborah Gray, who, regardless of any kind of qualifications that she might have, you'd hardly think that this retired person would have the capacity to stand up for our civil liberties and make sure that those spies and harassers and list keepers, and in the case of security certificates, imprisoning people, as we heard about, that she's going to have anything but doing cheerleading for the spy network. So the ground has, what I'm saying here is that the ground has been prepared by Harper and this government, and now they're taking advantage, and they would love to take advantage in the same sense that after September the 11th, 2001, when the U.S. Patriot Act was passed, and we got our first round of the security certificate legislation, they'd love to parlay that into terrible, terrible legislation. But we're standing against it. There's many groups in Canada that are standing against it. There are many allies. Canadians are not going to give up their civil liberties at the drop of a hat, at Harper's whim. And later on, when it's time to defeat this ignoble, rotten Harper government, they are going to be down to the dust. They will be nothing.
Hear, hear.
No, not in my name. No, not in my name. No, not in my name. Not in my name.